I want you to imagine trying to build a brand new car right in your driveway.
Oh, man. That sounds like a nightmare.
Right. Like you're out there in the freezing rain trying to, I don't know, weld the chassis together over the course of like 18 months. And meanwhile, people are just casually walking by and stealing your parts in the middle of the night.
Yeah, you would literally never do that. It's totally absurd.
Exactly. But, I mean, for some reason, that is exactly how we build our multi-million-dollar cities. We're standing in the mud, fighting the elements using this centuries-old paradigm.
Right.
But right now in Montreal, that muddy paradigm is being completely dismantled. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are tearing into a really fascinating 2026 report. It's called Update the Era of Prefabrication.
Yeah, and we're pulling this from wikiresidence.ca and infodrone.ca.
Exactly. We're looking at this super fast-moving, high-stakes revolution happening in the housing market. And, I mean, the timing on this is just critical.
It really is. The ground is shifting so incredibly fast right now. I mean, if you were paying attention to RDI Radio-Canada yesterday, you saw Premier Christine Fréchette make a pretty massive announcement.
Oh, yeah, the financial support plan.
Right. She announced this massive plan specifically dedicated to the industrialization of housing. And, it was followed up by this very candid interview with Éric Bonneville of Industries Bonneville. So this isn't just some niche architectural trend anymore.
No, not at all. It's a full-blown response to a perfect storm.
Uh-huh.
I mean, you've got this critical shortage of specialized labor across the whole province, and then this crushing affordability crisis that, let's face it, we all feel.
Oh, absolutely.
And on top of that, these intensifying international trade tensions that are just squeezing the broader economy.
Which is exactly why we need to look at this beyond just, the nuts and bolts of modular construction. What this report lays out is how a major city is utilizing industrial technology to basically rewrite its economic sovereignty.
While trying to solve a deep social crisis at the same time.
Exactly. It's really a masterclass in how a local economy adapts to immense macroeconomic pressure.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to really understand the political excitement from yesterday's announcement, we first have to understand the hard mathematics of the factory floor.
Right, the actual numbers.
Yeah, because during that RDI broadcast, Éric Bonneville threw out a number that, I think it made everyone do a double take.
Oh, for sure.
He stated that the production cost of a manufactured home can now be lowered to around $350,000.
And, let's be real for a second. In today's market, you can barely buy an empty dirt lot in a decent borough for $350,000.
Seriously.
So how are they shaving off that much cost? Like, are they just cutting corners on quality and building these flimsy boxes?
It's a fair skepticism, right? But no, the quality is actually increasing. The cost reduction really comes down to three massive operational efficiencies that you simply cannot get on a traditional open-air construction site.
So, the first and most obvious one is delivery speed. Modular projects that are manufactured in Quebec factories are slashing the total construction time by about 50%.
Wait, 50%?
Yeah. So a multi-unit project that would normally take, say, 18 months to build out in the elements, that's now being delivered in 6 to 9 months.
But how does moving indoors actually cut the timeline in half? Because you still have to do all the site prep, right? Like pour the foundation, frame the walls, do the plumbing. The actual steps don't change.
Well, the steps don't change, but the sequence completely does. It's a concept called parallel processing.
Parallel processing.
Right. So in traditional construction, everything is super linear. You literally cannot frame the walls until the foundation cures. And you can't do the plumbing until the walls are up.
Makes sense.
But with modular prefabrication, while the excavators are digging the foundation and, pouring concrete on-site in Montreal, the factory 100 miles away is simultaneously building the fully finished modules.
Oh, wow. So with the drywall and plumbing already in.
Exactly. The drywall, plumbing, electrical, all of it is already installed. So when that foundation is finally ready, the modules just arrive on trucks and get craned into place in a matter of days.
Oh, I see. So you're overlapping the two longest phases of the project. That makes a ton of sense.
Yeah, it's a huge time saver. And that controlled environment leads to the second big efficiency, which is waste reduction. On a traditional site, material waste often reaches a staggering 15%.
Wait, a drop from 15% down to what?
Oh.
Because, okay, I get that rain warps wood and, snow ruins drywall, but how do you lose 15% of your expensive materials in the first place?
Well, in a factory, that material loss plummets to less than 2%.
2%?
Yeah. On a traditional site, it's a combination of just exposure and logistics. Like you said, wood sitting on a muddy lot rots or warps. Materials get damaged by heavy machinery constantly moving around a really tight site. And frankly, theft is a massive uncalculated cost in traditional builds.
Right, people stealing stuff.
Exactly. Appliances, copper wiring, lumber, it all just disappears from sites in the middle of the night. But in a secure, climate-controlled factory, every single offcut of wood is tracked, repurposed, or recycled.
That's incredible.
Yeah, nothing is stolen and absolutely nothing is left out in the rain.
So basically, if you were buying a traditionally built home, you were essentially paying a 13% premium for materials that never even make it into your walls.
Exactly.
That is just a staggering inefficiency.
It really is. But the third factor is arguably the most impactful for the actual developers who are funding these projects. And that is the massive reduction in carrying costs and bank interest.
Right, because, I mean, building a multi-residential complex requires huge construction loans.
Oh, yeah. Let's say a developer borrows $10 million at current interest rates to build an apartment complex. They are paying tens of thousands of dollars in bank financing fees every single month that the project is under construction and, crucially, not generating any rent.
Oh, man.
So if a traditional build drags on for 18 months, with all the inevitable weather delays and labor shortages we always see, that interest just compounds heavily. By cutting 9 to 12 months off that cycle, you are saving developers hundreds of thousands of dollars in sheer bank interest.
So, I mean, if you're listening to this right now and you've ever wondered why new housing is just so astronomically expensive,
Yeah.
this report literally proves how much of that price tag is just, well, phantom costs.
Phantom costs, exactly.
You aren't paying for better architecture. You aren't paying for higher quality materials. You are paying for weather delays, stolen copper wire, and a bank's interest over this 18-month muddy crawl.
Right. You are paying for the friction of the process. And the factory just eliminates that friction.
Right. But optimizing the factory floor is completely useless if you can't afford the raw materials to put inside it.
That's very true.
And right now, Quebec is facing a massive geopolitical barrier just south of the border. Because usually when we talk about driving down the cost of manufacturing, the dirty secret is that we're just importing cheap, cut-rate materials from overseas.
Right. The classic outsourcing model.
Yeah. So are these Quebec factories just buying shipping containers of cheap supplies and snapping them together?
It's the logical assumption, right, especially when profit margins are this tight. But the geopolitical reality outlined in the report shows the exact opposite is happening.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Currently, the U.S. administration has implemented some incredibly protectionist trade policies. They've levied really heavy surtaxes on Quebec's exports of softwood lumber, aluminum, and steel.
Which normally would just be economically devastating. I mean, historically, the regional economy here relies so heavily on exporting those raw resources across the border. And regardless of where you fall in the politics of trade tariffs, there is just no denying that having your main export penalized like that is a massive threat to regional jobs.
It is a critical bottleneck for the entire resource sector. But this is where the modular housing industry offers this absolutely brilliant pivot. They're employing what's called a captive materials strategy.
Okay, what does that mean?
Well, instead of paying those penalizing tariffs to export mass timber like cross-laminated timber or light steel, Quebec is actively choosing to absorb those surpluses domestically.
Ah, so we aren't just eating the tariffs, we're building a shield. We take those captive materials and redirect them straight into the local factories.
Precisely. It creates a complete domestic value chain. So the aluminum, which normally faces heavy tariffs at the border, is kept in the province. It goes directly into the high-efficiency fenestration and cladding for these modules.
Like the windows and siding.
Exactly. And the regional steel. That goes into the structural frames for the taller urban residential towers where wood just isn't viable. And then the softwood lumber surpluses are used for the framework of the residential modules themselves.
So by turning the raw material into a highly complex finished product, like a complete house or a multi-unit condo, before it ever leaves the province, they're completely bypassing those tariff barriers.
Exactly.
I mean, you can't put a softwood lumber tariff on a finished apartment building planted in the middle of Rosemont.
You really can't. And the economic return on investment here is vital. According to the report, every single $1 million invested in Quebec's modular housing directly supports three distinct local sectors.
Okay, which ones?
You've got the forestry sector stabilizing its operations, the metallurgy sector moving its steel and aluminum domestically, and the high technology sector, which is managing all the robotics and software in these factories.
Wow. It essentially transforms a geopolitical trade crisis into domestic manufacturing sovereignty. We aren't just building houses faster. We are literally creating a closed-loop economy that protects local resources from international trade wars.
It's a super elegant economic defense mechanism, but, it really only works if the end product actually fits the city it's being built for.
Exactly. Which kind of brings us from the macroeconomics down to the physical reality of the streets. So we have local wood and steel going into highly efficient factories. But my immediate fear, and honestly probably the fear of anyone listening who loves Montreal's unique historic architecture, is that if we industrialize housing, the city is just going to turn into this bland copy-paste grid of identical boxes.
Right. The cookie cutter effect?
Yeah. I mean, if I'm a borough mayor in the Plateau or Villeray, I don't want a one-size-fits-all hammer for my neighborhood. I need a highly specialized toolkit.
And that fear of the cookie-cutter city is so common, but it's actually incredibly outdated when you look at how these factories operate today.
Really?
Yeah. The foundational technology that prevents that copy-paste nightmare is BIM, Building Information Modeling.
Okay, but how does a piece of software actually prevent buildings from looking identical on the street?
Well, BIM allows manufacturers to create what they call digital twins of a building before a single piece of steel is even cut. In traditional construction, you sort of figure out the tight corners on site. Like if a plumbing pipe runs into an HVAC duct, you just tear down the drywall and fix it.
Which wastes time and money.
Exactly. But with a digital twin, they run clash detection in the software first. They map the exact dimensions of a notoriously awkward, angular downtown Montreal lot to the literal millimeter. The factory then custom cuts the materials to slide perfectly into that specific urban gap.
Oh, that's fascinating. So because of that digital precision, the 2026 landscape isn't just dominated by one massive monopoly pumping out a single type of box.
Not at all.
Yeah, because the report highlights 4 distinct manufacturers, and they each occupy this very specific, necessary niche in Montreal's ecosystem.
It's that highly specialized toolkit you just mentioned.
Yeah.
Let's look at the first player, RCM Modular. You can basically think of them as the speed kings of the industry. Their primary focus is high density and rapid institutional builds. So they've been working very closely with the OMHMM, the Office Municipal d'Habitation de Montréal, for massive social housing projects.
And in the social housing sector, I mean, speed isn't just a luxury, it is the entire ballgame. Avoiding financing delays is absolutely critical when you are dealing with rigid government budgets.
Exactly.
So RCM's ability to produce habitable, high-density units in record time makes them the go-to for urgent institutional needs.
Precisely. But a high-density, multi-story wood module doesn't work everywhere, right? Which brings us to the really tight, complicated spaces downtown.
Yeah, I was actually super fascinated by Bone Structure's approach here. Because if you know downtown Montreal, you know there's literally zero space for a massive crane or to, store stacks of drywall on the street. It is a logistical nightmare. So how exactly does Bone Structure bypass that constraint?
Well, they are the high-end gentle densification specialists, and their secret is using a highly engineered light steel structure system.
Okay, light steel.
Yeah. Unlike those bulky wood modules that arrive fully finished, Bone Structure's steel components are digitally laser cut in the factory, and they actually arrive flat-packed.
Like IKEA furniture?
Honestly, yeah. Almost like high-end furniture. So they can be erected in incredibly tight spaces without heavy machinery. But the true innovation of their steel system is how it actually handles thermal bridges.
Oh, we should probably explain thermal bridging to the listener, because that is basically the historical enemy of steel construction in cold climates like ours, because steel is highly conductive, right?
Exactly. If you don't design a light steel frame correctly, the freezing Montreal winter temperatures will literally travel right through the external metal frame, into the walls, and right into your living room.
Yikes.
It completely ruins energy efficiency and causes massive internal condensation. But Bone Structure's digital engineering specifically breaks those thermal bridges within the frame itself.
So you get all the strength and the precision of steel, but without the crazy energy loss.
Exactly, allowing them to build these hyper-efficient homes on those impossible downtown lots.
Okay, so we have speed and high density with RCM, and then tight space, high efficiency precision with Bone Structure.
Mm-hmm.
What about the financial volatility of just building a standard residential complex?
That is where Profab steps in. They essentially serve as the budget stabilizers of the ecosystem. Their focus is squarely on residential and small multi-housing projects. And what makes them so vital to developers right now is that they offer locked-in prices.
Ah, locked-in prices. Because they have optimized their models for series construction, right?
Yep.
So they act as a buffer against this massive inflation of material costs we've seen recently. If a developer signs a contract today, they know exactly what they will pay in 6 months when the building is delivered.
Which is huge.
Yeah.
That predictability makes securing bank financing so much easier. Certainty is basically the most valuable commodity in real estate development right now. And finally, you have Maisons Usines Côté. They are the mini experts. They've been refining their process for over 3 decades, and they are capitalizing on a massive zoning shift in neighborhoods like Rosemont and Villeray.
Oh, you're talking about ADUs, right? Accessory dwelling units.
Exactly.
I love this trend so much. Instead of tearing down a beautiful historic building to put up some generic glass tower, you just drop a modern, highly designed mini home right into the backyard to increase density.
It's the literal definition of gentle densification. It respects the existing built heritage of the city while still adding much-needed housing units.
Right.
So Montreal's future doesn't rely on just one of these companies winning out and dominating. It relies on harmonizing zoning bylaws to let all 4 of these players deploy their specific toolkits right where they make the most sense.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for you, the listener.
Yeah.
We know who's building these, and we know why it makes perfect economic sense for the government to subsidize them. But how does this shift from the site to the factory actually impact your daily life?
It's a huge shift.
Let's say you live in one of these boroughs. Living next to a traditional construction site means blocked streets, toxic dust all over your windows, and just endless drilling noise from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. for 2 solid years.
It completely degrades the quality of life for the entire block.
It really does. But with volumetric modular construction, the disruption is minimal. The report notes that because these modules arrive by truck and are assembled on-site in a matter of days, neighborhood noise pollution drops by nearly 70%.
That's right, 70%.
That is the difference between feeling forced to move out of your apartment because of a high-rise going up across the street versus just dealing with a few days of heavy truck traffic while they crane the modules into place.
Exactly. But, if we connect this to the bigger picture, it's not just about keeping the noise down for the neighbors. It is about addressing the sheer urgency of the human crisis. The report really does not shy away from the stark realities facing Montreal in 2026. They highlight the unprecedented food bank attendance and these agonizingly long wait lists for OMHM social housing. People desperately need roofs over their heads, and they need them right now.
As we established earlier, traditional construction simply cannot scale fast enough or cheap enough to clear those wait lists. It is mathematically impossible at this point.
It really is. Which brings us to the final piece of the puzzle here, the environmental subsidies. Because these factory-built homes are engineered with such tight digital tolerances, they achieve energy yields that are 20% higher than current standard building codes.
20% higher, wow. And that efficiency unlocks specific high-tier green financing, right? The report pointed specifically to the Logisfert subsidies and the CMHC MLI Select program.
Exactly. The MLI Select program uses this point system that's based on affordability, accessibility, and climate compatibility. By hitting those top-tier energy efficiency metrics straight out of the factory, developers earn enough points to access dramatically lower mortgage insurance premiums and much longer amortization periods.
Ah, I see.
Reaching those high energy tiers gives developers access to financing terms that, frankly, finally make building low-income social housing profitable again.
So let me get this straight. You have a build that takes half the time, produces almost zero waste, creates a vastly greener building, and taps into federal subsidies, all converging to actually get vulnerable people off those wait lists and into secure homes.
That's the formula.
So if you are listening right now, whether you're someone actively waiting for affordable housing or you're just a resident who wants peace and quiet in your neighborhood without a crane blocking your commute for 24 months, this industrial shift fundamentally changes your daily reality.
It's a complete paradigm shift in how urban development functions on a human level.
Totally. So to synthesize what we've covered today, we started with that major announcement from Premier Fréchette and then looked at the mathematical reality of how parallel processing creates a $350,000 factory-built home.
Right.
We saw how Quebec is ingeniously bypassing U.S. protectionist tariffs by keeping their softwood lumber and steel local, turning a massive economic threat into a thriving, closed-loop domestic supply chain.
The economic shield.
Exactly. And we explored how companies like RCM, Bone Structure, Profab, and Cote are using digital twins to reshape Montreal block by block without losing the city's architectural soul. So it is abundantly clear that in 2026, the question for developers is no longer should we build modularly, but which specific manufacturer's toolkit is best suited for this plot of land.
It really is a brilliant adaptation on every level. But, it leaves us with something a bit deeper to consider about our relationship with our homes.
Oh.
Well, we've talked entirely about the economics, the logistics, and the materials today. But it makes you wonder about the psychology of this shift. When our homes are no longer built by human hands in the elements, but are instead printed with millimeter perfection by robotics in a factory, does our emotional connection to the places we live fundamentally change?
Oh, wow.
Right. If a house becomes this highly engineered gadget, assembled in a few days, do we eventually stop treating our homes like multi-generational heirlooms?
That is a fascinating angle, the house as a gadget rather than an heirloom.
Yeah.
That is exactly the kind of question we love to leave you with. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. Keep questioning the systems building the world around you, and we will catch you next time.